Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy with Jason. Today I have a very special guest. I met this guest in none other than Las Vegas, Nevada, from a very good friend of ours, Lori. And I've been looking forward to sitting down with her and jamming about some amazing topics for some time. I have the one, the only, the oh so famous Miss Sabrina Erskine in the house. Sabrina, how are you?
Woo! Hey, Jason, thanks so much. Happy New Year.
You
so
too.
Excited to be here.
You too. I know. Isn't it crazy? 2022. I'm like, wow, man.
It is crazy. And the month is half over.
It's crazy. It just flew by. Well,
Yeah.
Sabrina, for everybody out there that's watching and listening right now, and maybe, kind of don't know who you are or your background or how you kind of got started. I always like kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story because I'm always super fascinated to find out how people got started. So what is the origin story of you getting started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
And boy, is it a crazy world. Thanks for asking. So back in 2000, I'm a mom of 5. I was getting ready to get back into the workforce, and I found an ad in a newspaper, yes, in the newspaper, for a part-time sales admin at an auto dealer. And so I went and I applied and I got an interview, and that launched my career in the automotive business. I thought it was just going to be a part-time gig while my youngest, who was in kindergarten now, was in school. But I found that it opened a world for me that was just so exciting. And I got to use my skills and help the dealership grow. So I started out as a sales admin. I was doing, dealer trades and all of that kind of stuff. And it was with an Acura store. And Acura launched a program called Excel, and the owner asked me to be the Excel coordinator. And basically, it was a process improvement. You map out the processes, the customer-facing processes, and you train people on it, and you track it through the CSI and all of that. And so I started with that, and then it just snowballed as I saw opportunities in the dealership to help us grow, to help us improve, because now I'm hearing the customer feedback. I'm seeing opportunities for us to improve the customer experience. I just began sharing, and thankfully I was in an environment that they were open. That's cool. And so I went from doing the customer satisfaction and customer relations, and I started working on this in the CRM and learning that whole part of the business. Went back to school and got my degree in business and marketing, and started handling their email marketing. And then from there, started being the point person for the website, and started being the point person for paid search, and then became the point person for our third-party vendors and all of our vendor sites and all of that. And so it was very organic. It was very natural. It just progressed as I began to learn. And you've been in the dealership before. We wear multiple hats. We're doing multiple things. And I seem to be the one that liked learning all this stuff, and the store began looking to me as the in-store expert on all of this arena of the internet. And then we purchased a few more stores, and I began doing that for multiple stores. Nice. And then as we progressed, I helped them open their centralized BDC for sales and service. And so I was doing all these things, wearing all these hats. And then in 2018, I had the opportunity to lead the Mazda store. I was so excited. The owner asked me if I would become the general manager of that store. And so I took on that challenge. And I got to say, in the beginning, I was not met with open arms, but persevered through it and really built a team. And then, and of course, in 2020, we know the story, right? COVID hit. And then navigated the team through COVID. And in October 2020, that dealer principal sold his dealer group, and another dealer principal came in, and it just kind of changed things. And so now I'm embarking on some new adventures. And so all in all, that's been a 21-year history in the automotive space.
And it all just started with a newspaper ad.
Yes, a newspaper ad. And, you think about how we think about newspapers now. I mean, they're pretty much obsolete
Exactly.
for that type of, hardly ever do you see ads in the newspaper any longer for automotive. There's a few diehards out there, but almost, it's obsolete. But yeah, that's how I started my journey.
Well, I think it's so cool because a lot like me, you've been able to kind of taste and experience kind of every kind of little different level within a dealership. Yes. and its operations. And I've been in the business around the same time, and you've seen a lot of things kind of evolve. I mean, you remember the recession in 2008. You saw how websites became more than brochures. And they were more about connecting to people. You saw the upcoming of live chat and what happened there, and it's cool. Like, I'm so excited because there's so many different things, Sabrina, I could talk to you about right now.
I know.
But I think the one that I want to talk to you, the first one I really want to kind of kick this off, is just women in automotive. We got a chance to talk a little bit about this before we started recording, and just honestly, personally, there's just not enough. Some of the best managers I ever employed were women. And I don't think it's necessarily, I think it's partly the industry, and then partly is just the way that we market it. It doesn't, we don't market it. I'm thinking, because I'm thinking about your newspaper ad, right? And almost there's something simple about that newspaper ad that I kind of like, because it's black and white text, right?
Yes,
and it's
point,
not, it's open to anybody and everybody. But I think over the years we've kind of lost, we've lost that. But I know you have some thoughts and definitely some opinions of maybe why this is the case. So I'd love to kind of get your thoughts of, how we can get more women involved in automotive.
Well, the first thing I thought of when you brought that up was that, we know the stats tell us that women influence, I believe it's about 80%, maybe even more of the car purchases, right?
I've seen that stat, yeah.
And so what has their experience been?
Mm-hmm.
And so if their experience overall has been negative, why would they want to work in that industry?
Perfect point.
And so, that's the one thing that hasn't changed in our industry is the need. And I'll get back to the women, but I think it does all tie together, is the need for the customer experience to be be
No, it makes sense, because that's at the core of it, right?
Yes, I
mean,
think so.
And I'm thinking about it like, and this goes for women. This also goes for the next generation, too. I just took, you'll love this story. I just bought a new pickup, and I brought my kids with me, and we spent 3.5 hours at the dealership, and my daughter looked at me and goes, "I don't like this, Dad. I don't think I ever want to work in a car dealership."
There you go.
But I mean, that's,
there you go.
That's to your point, the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So look, there's a lot to chew on when it comes to the experience. What would be some of the first things you would kind of attack?
Well, for one, coming in as a woman, I think the tide is turning. For a long time. Women were not the primary breadwinners; their husbands are,
Hmm.
and so they would go with the husband and quote influence the purchase. Right, honey, don't buy that. I don't like that color. I didn't like that ride, but they weren't acknowledged as an important part of the transaction. Obviously, I'm speaking in generalizations. There are some dealerships that get it and they do it fantastic. Now we find that the tide is turning.
Hmm.
There are a lot of single women that are making, a great amount of money and they can buy pretty much whatever car that they want. Or if it's even a married situation, the woman is the breadwinner, and we're seeing that increase as well. And so but the mindset of some of the dealership experience hasn't changed.
Agreed.
And so they don't acknowledge. So, one of the things that I shared with my team and worked on with my team as I was in the dealership was those needs assessment,
Hmm.
understanding why are you in the market? What are you shopping for? What is it that you're looking for? Really making it about the customer. If we could just move from our agenda to the customer's agenda, we would be so much more successful and have so much more loyalty, and there would be so much more respect for our industry.
I'm with you on that, and I think about that, and I like that statement, and I was kind of chewing on that a little bit when you said that, and I got an idea. I want to pass it by. I want to get your thoughts on this. I think of the sales process. Okay, I
Yeah.
think back when like you and I first got taught how to sell cars. I'm not exactly sure how that experience went for you, but mine was pretty much let me show you how to maintain control of the customer at all given
Yes.
times, right? Like
Yes.
I so vividly remember this trainer showing me how to do this, like walk around the vehicle, right? And when it came to the engine area, all right, like you pop open the hood, and instead of using the latch to keep the hood open, because every single car has got a little something to keep the hood open,
Yes.
make your customer open and hold the hood for you while you show them, the key elements, within the hood, right, within the engine. And I just thought to myself, like, that is so weird, right? And he
So
said, look,
weird.
that's your way of showing that you're in control, you're maintaining control. And then it just got worse, progressively worse after that,
Right.
right? I'm not sure if you had that same experience, but it's just like, but I think overall as an industry, that's a pretty similar sales process. I think
Yeah.
for a lot of people over the course of, let's say, the last 10 or 15 years, it
Yeah.
was like that. But that's not what customers want now. I mean, their
No.
expectation is so much farther. I believe they're expecting a buying process, not a sales process. But I'd love to get your thoughts on
Right.
that.
Jason, we've never wanted to be controlled.
Yeah.
Who
Right?
wants
Yeah.
to be controlled? What's different now is there's a bunch more information. There's a ton of information that we didn't have before. So we come into the dealership wanting, obviously, a car, but we want to have a rapport and trust with the person that we're working
Exactly.
with. And when we do these control shenanigans that are going on, I don't trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I don't trust you, now we've reduced this to a transaction. And right now, we're in a situation where inventory is at a premium because there's not much of it.
Yes.
So this is a car that I really want. So I'm going to put up with the shenanigans because I really want this car.
And you know what? I hate to say it, but that's exactly what happened when I went and bought this pickup.
Yeah,
Right. It was the only one. It was a specific color, specific trim I wanted.
exactly.
It's funny because it was this specific brand. I work with like 13 of these brands within my area,
Yeah,
but the one I wanted just happened to be in a location that I've never had experience with. I've never done business with. And that's exactly what it was. It was just kind of like,
yeah,
I mean, it got to the point where they had some additional fees. And I was like, At one point, I just finally had to say it. I had to open my mouth and say, look, I've been in the business for almost 20 years. What you guys do in here is actually illegal. And let me tell you why. Go get your manager. I need to have a discussion with him. And even after I laid it all out for him, he didn't care.
Yeah.
He's like, where else are you going to find this thing? I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, this is the dealership. This is that sales process was what's wrong, right? They've stuck to this sales process and they don't deviate from it.
Exactly.
And why would anybody want to get into the industry with this type of process? Women or the younger generation, like it's not appealing, but I'm just trying to think. You said something earlier that kind of got me going. You talked about mindset. How do we change that mindset to make the customer at the focus of our sales process, which I think will attract a lot of additional opportunities and talent?
Yeah. And, I think it starts from the top. The dealer principal, the owner has to have that mindset. I was fortunate in the group that I was with, mostly wasn't perfect by any stretch, but mostly that's the attitude that he had. Awesome. Really building loyalty and customer experience was the foundation of the dealership. But I think it starts at the top. I think really good communication with your management team, reiterating, modeling that belief system. Right now, we're in a situation where price is not an issue anymore, right? Exactly. We're all paying MSRP. Who would have thought we would be in this type of a situation? And for this stretch, when we started back in 2020 in this situation, we thought, it's just going to be a few months. And here we're now into 2022. And, from what I'm understanding, we've got, a good solid year or so of this. And so why wouldn't we work on our processes and the customer experience to build loyalty at this season, at this juncture that we're in? So how do we change the mindset? I think it's modeling. I don't know how else how else do you change mindsets? It has to be something that's internal that we believe in. And if the thought that if the customer wins, I don't win. Yes. We have to change that. Why can't we both win?
No, look, I don't understand. It makes no sense.
Why can't we both win?
Everybody can win, especially right now.
Everybody can win.
Especially right now. Everybody can win, to your point.
Exactly.
You know what's the funny thing? Buying that pickup, I didn't ask for a discount. Not once.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
I just said, look, you have it. I'm just happy to purchase it. I want it. So but they had to push even farther, which I thought was so there was a topic that we kind of talked about before we were recording here. And I'm thinking that because we're talking about mindset, right? And I'm wondering if in several dealerships or maybe many dealerships out there, that culture vision or that culture mission statement has kind of faded away into the background. And thus has kind of created, like, we've lost the mindset. We lost the direction, right? I mean, I think now there are some great dealerships out there that actually are still executing. There really are. So I don't want anybody out there watching or listening think I'm giving everyone crap. Because there are right now, we were talking about this earlier, right? The cream rises to the top. We are seeing real operators do amazing things right now. But I think there's a good core of people out there that have lost sight on their culture direction. Yeah. And thus has created, this default back to a sales process. So this is my question for you. When you think of the culture, because you did an amazing job of creating yours at your dealership, knowing what's happened over the last 24 months, how do we bring that back?
Yeah. And, it's unfortunate. And I don't want to sound negative, right? Of course. But the situation that we're in is the situation that we're in. And it's unfortunate that profits seem to be driving. And yet my understanding is that you make more money from happy customers than you do customers that are unhappy and dissatisfied. How do we change the tide? We have to look long term.
Yes.
We have to look beyond the next 30 days, the next 90 days. We have to look long term because it's my understanding, it's my experience that service and service retention really is the lifeblood of every dealership.
Yes.
And if you want people to continue to bring their business to you and you want to have repeat customers and referral customers and have a good reputation in your community, you have to work on those foundational pieces. And the foundation is happy employees and happy customers. It's not rocket science.
No, it's not.
It might not be easy to execute, in that sense, but it's something that we have to strive for because whenever people are involved, it gets sticky and it gets messy. And, that has been my experience. But I think it has to be what we strive for and what we continue to work towards. And, it's not even just, the dealership. You think about how many businesses are influenced by dealerships.
Yes.
And it's all of them too that have shifted their mindset. Coming out of the dealership environment, the vendors that I work with day in and day out have pretty much gone silent.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that too.
They're not helping, they're not working with the dealers, making sure that they're maximizing those resources, making sure that they're optimizing the tools and, all of those things that drive customer experience, customer satisfaction, employees being, top of their game, having the expertise that they need to have, all of those things. This is the time when price is out, not even a concern. We're pre-ordering, we're selling our used cars like crazy. Get your processes in line. Keep your mission and the vision of the store first and foremost. Get your communication channels honed in. This is the time to work on it, especially, for us in the North. I know you're in Toronto, I'm in Chicago. It's a little chilly. Things are a little quieter than normal. This is the time to work on it.
You know what? There was a whole bunch there that you had, and
there's several.
So I'm gonna dissect a few of them because there was some great nuggets there, right? Mission and vision statements. I got to be honest with you. As an industry, I find that we, like every other vertical out there that I've worked with from a consulting perspective, does an amazing job of maintaining their company's internal and culture mission and vision statements. And I think if anybody out there right now, if they're looking, if they feel like they're in this place that we just discussed, that would be a great first step, is really document your mission and vision statement. And then I love the fact that you said happiness, right? And I remember talking to a dealer a few years back, overall just a grumpy individual. And he's like, I'm tired of everybody telling me that I got to make everybody happy. And I said, well, Bill, you don't have to make everybody happy. All right. Really what they're saying is that your process needs to make them happy. And this kind of leads into what you were saying about process improvement. And when I said that to him, he was like, oh, wait a second. Let's open that up a bit more, right? Because I think a lot of people think of happiness and they just kind of go to this like, oh, everything needs to be unicorns and rainbows and butterflies, and it's like, no, you actually process it.
Exactly.
We both know some amazing operators out there, and the reason that their customer and employee retention is so high is because either knowingly or unknowingly they processed their way to happiness. And I just don't think as an industry we necessarily understand what that means. We know what makes the customer happy, right? Time and convenience is usually one of the things that makes them most amount of happy.
Tell us over and over.
And money is obviously one too, but maybe right now we don't focus on that one. Let's focus on the time and convenience one. Like, I feel happy when things happen quickly and efficiently, and it's convenient for me. Like, I had to get my oil change. My local dealership offers a white glove service, a valet service, that will come pick up my car. They drop off a loaner for me, and then they take it, or they ask me if I need it or not, right? That convenience, which does cost me additional money, all right, that convenience makes me happy.
Yeah.
Like I'm able to continue to be here, talk to you, work. Like they just picked it up this morning. It was great. It was great. But what other examples do you have that you have seen where a dealership or even yourself and in your efforts, you're able to process happiness either with customers or employees?
Sure. I mean, one of our biggest hotspots is finance.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
We are able to execute the finance process digitally.
Oh, I like that.
But how many of us are actually doing it? And why aren't we doing it? Is because we feel like we need to sit the customer in a small office, shut the door, and hammer them on products.
Yeah.
We
Call it
feel
the
as
box
though
for
if
crying out
we
loud.
don't, right? And so if we gave the customer some information prior to understand the extended service contract, to understand GAP, to understand all the various products that will be presented and their benefits, now I get to make an educated decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a simple decision as we go through the digital process. But no, see here again, it's the dealer's agenda versus what's good for the customer. But what we don't understand is that the customer is highly educated, highly informed, and they just want their time respected, their intelligence respected,
Yeah, exactly.
their money respected. They want to trust. But when we aren't forthright, when we aren't, I'm fumbling for my words here.
Well,
but
I think what you're saying is just if we're not being in front of the customer, okay, if we're not letting the customer drive and us co-pilot, and there's this constant fight of kind of about what we were talking
power
about. Yeah, exactly. That's what we talked about at the very beginning, was this control BS, all right, that our industry has struggled to kind of let go. Now, and I think it's cool that you bring that up, because I think process improvement is huge right now. And there was another thing we were talking about before we got recording today that kind of goes into what you're discussing around, and it's digital retailing. Right. Mm-hmm. And I know you got mixed feelings on this, and I know I got mixed feelings on this. Because look, I had really high expectations for this, right? I was like, talk about process that make people happy, transparency and honesty. Boy, does digital retailing bring that to play. I will allow you to take control, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, all right, and you go as far as you want through the sales process. Stop and pause, come back, take a break, all right? And then when you're ready, you can come to the dealership. We'll pick it up from step 6 or step 2, or we'll pick it up from step 13 if you want, whatever you want. That's what I saw digital retailing processing, and that made me happy. It made me happy, all right? But I'm a little concerned that we may be screwing this up. We got talking a little bit earlier about live chat. 15 years ago is when the first time I installed live chat software on my dealership's website. And it was managed by me. There wasn't a company at the time that was self-managing it. And I was excited because I'm like, oh, finally, there is a product that's going to connect the customer and the dealership instantaneously into conversation, so we can get into the relationship building that much faster. And we screwed it up. All right. Every single live chat provider out there now is a lead generating tool. And I'm concerned that we're doing the same thing with digital retail. But I know you got some thoughts too, so I'd like to hear them.
So, with digital retail, I think first of all, I see it on LinkedIn all the time. I agree. Digital retail is a tool. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the process to support the tool as it was intended, it just doesn't work. No. It just doesn't work. Or it maybe works not as efficiently or effectively as it possibly could. So digital retail, the idea is that I start online and I pick up when I come into the store, or maybe I don't come into the store at all, and we see that number increasing. I think part of the challenge, and maybe I'm digressing, But I just came from a situation where I would say out of the 15 sales consultants that I was working with, three were actively in the CRM.
Oh my gosh.
The rest really wanted to manage their book of business from their cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had no idea where the customer was in the buying journey because the tools that the dealership had were not being utilized.
Yeah, a tool is only as good as how well someone uses it.
Exactly. So, we know exactly what the customer's doing. We have all that data, all that information, but we refuse to look at it, connect with it, and say, Mrs. Jones, I see that, you're pre-approved and this is, the trim and this is all that you want and you selected this accessories and, we refuse to look at all that because we don't want to use the tools. We shortcut. And it just goes back to not having a process. And then if you do say you have a process, there's no accountability. There's no accountability.
No, I'm with
and
you.
I don't know if that really speaks to digital retail. I think that just speaks to a systemic issue in the dealer world.
Does. I think it does because look, kind of going back to what we were saying about tools. Tools are only as good as how well someone uses them.
Right.
All right. And the usage of that has accountability to it. Right. Like,
yes.
I will say this. What a set of wrenches are worth in my hands versus a certified technician.
The guy working on your car today.
It's going to be very, very, very different, right? And there's a level of accountability with them having that knowledge and that understanding. Yes. And Sabrina, I think you nailed it on the head. All right, we have the information. We know a lot more about the customer journey and where they are, and we seem to just want to ignore it and just kind of default. But to your point, I think people I want to say a lot. All right, let's say a fair amount. Let's say a fair amount of dealers out there looked at digital retailing as a diet pill, right?
Yeah.
Just take this and you'll lose the 20 pounds, right? Hit the proverbial easy button, and this is and everything will work out for you. But you nailed it, right? If we don't have the process defined first and then work back towards the technology is never going to work. I think as an industry, we saw this technology come out and we expected it to be this plug and play and that it came with a process. And when dealers found out it did not come with a process and they needed to generate the process and then work back towards the technology, that's when I think we started defaulting back to this lead generation. Well, I'm paying $1,200 or whatever a month for this widget. What is this widget bringing me in?
Yeah, what has it gotten me? Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And how could it come with a out of the box process when every dealership has its own culture, its own vibe, the group of people that make it a store, make it, a team, they operate together. There's different goals there, so it can't be out of the box. I do believe that the various digital retail providers out there, they try to work with the individual stores and build that process, but it's all about execution. I do want to say, because I really really pride myself in being a positive person, that there are some stores out there that are just doing a great job.
They really are.
And, we could use more of that out there out front, sharing how they're doing it, what they're doing, the results that they're getting, to maybe, and what's hard right now, Jason, is that everybody's making money.
I know. That's
even
I actually
doing
think
a crappy job.
But seriously, though, I actually think that's the problem. Is that we're making money.
They're making money, and I'm glad. I want our industry to do well. I want our industry to do well. I want us to make money. I just think we have to look long term, because at some point there is going to be another shift. We know that there have been so many shifts over my 21 years in the industry. There's going to be another shift.
Yep.
And so we just have to be ready for it. And
I
customer
hear you.
loyalty, customer
It's all about
satisfaction,
looking
all of
forward.
those things are so critical.
If look, it's a tough industry to be in because, for the longest time, our manufacturers have taught us to look at 30-day cycles. Now some of those
Yes.
manufacturers got better. We're looking
So
at
glad you
quarterly
bring that
cycles,
up.
but
Yes.
because our short-sightedness was so focused on a 30-day cycle, if that additional process or if that digital tool or that additional time and spending in making a vision statement and a culture mission statement, if that time spent did not immediately affect my 30-day cycle, I just simply didn't do it. And
Yes.
I think we're getting as an industry better about that. We still
Yes.
have a ways to go,
Yes.
but you're 100% right. There are some amazing people out there that are doing some amazing jobs, and I'm always on the hunt for them. So a little plug for the website. If you're watching or listening right now, reach out to me. Let's talk about this because I want to hear what you guys are
Yes. We
doing.
need to hear from you.
I know, right? Hey, Sabrina, I know we're at the tail end of our time today, and we've covered some seriously awesome topics. I still think there's more conversation to be had here. For everybody that's watching and listening right now and would love to maybe connect with you, follow along with your journey, or maybe even pick up some of these conversations, what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way is LinkedIn. What a great tool that
I know,
is.
right?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
And I really have enjoyed this conversation. And if I could, just
Yeah,
one little plug
please.
for you ladies out there that are already in automotive and are wondering how to grow, be your best self.
Mm-hmm.
You see opportunities within your store, within your organization, be the solution. Ask good questions, be the one that is, you know, bringing a spotlight to those opportunities and then collaborate with your team so that you can be better, so that this is fluid. We're constantly improving, we're constantly growing, and so this is a great industry. It is a great opportunity for career. For those of you ladies out there that might be wondering if this is a career for you, I say yes. Go for it. There is so much opportunity in automotive.
100%. And thank you for, by the way, putting that in there
Yeah,
because I think
that's
that's an
where we
important
started
part.
anyway.
It is, but I think everything we covered, it all kind of comes back to why,
It is.
right? And
Yes.
look,
Yes.
we talked about the customer, we talked about the retention, we talked about process improvement, right? We just the overall culture. Again, I mean, I think the main thesis here is like, look, if as a customer you don't enjoy the process, why would you want to be a part of that as an employee? Like,
Exactly.
it really kind of you said it earlier. It's not rocket science. This is pretty simple, but we just have to execute on it. Sabrina, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do this again soon. You have yourself an amazing day.
You too, Jason. So fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.